Congratulations for getting to the mat. It's really an incredible act. There's often so many things from the world out there that are demanding our time, our attention, our energy. But I also find that it can take a lot in here to just decide, to have that tapas or resolve, to get to the mat and to let the practice happen. And that's really all we do. We show up and we're curious because we don't actually know. We don't know what our body is going to want and need the most. I don't know what yours is going to experience. And so a reminder that I'm providing a framework, and your job is to, in each moment, be as connected with your body and breath as possible in noticing of what's feeling right, what's feeling needed, where is your edge. A reminder that the edge is a place where there's intensity. We're leaning in, if you will, towards intensity. But that is not the same as pain. You know, and I always hear that no pain, no gain phrase. I'm like, no, 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 no. We want it to be intense, like a good deep massage, if you will, a hello to some part of our body that needs that attention. And then we meet it with breath. We meet it with loving kindness. If we're contracting down around it, that's our signal, I've gone too far, I've gone past my edge. And so there may be poses today that I offer you that just aren't right at all, in which case go do something that feels right, even if it's just returning to breath and being still. We're going to start off on our back body, but initially reclined over an object. And if you are used to reclining over a block under the bra strap area, like so, I'd encourage you instead to find something softer. I really want to initiate a sense of opening through all of the breath process, the diaphragm, our xiphoid process here, the intercostals, the ribs. So all the container for our breath, we need that to soften and relax so that breath can happen the way that it should. So it could be kind of flat and folded like I've got here. It could be something more kind of rolled, so a towel or a throw. And when you recline over it, if you feel like your head is dropping back and you're getting like compressed through the neck, then you need to make it lower or tuck something under your head, okay? So you're going to just, if you can, gently come down to your forearms so that you can kind of adjust so that that object is just down from the shoulder blades. So that when you recline, the shoulder blade wingtips can kind of tilt inward towards your body. If it doesn't feel great, you know, scooch around until it's kind of a ah experience. If you've got a ponytail or a hair thing, you might have to take it out in order to remain comfortable here. You can also straighten the legs if that feels good. If you do, take them nice and wide. I want to spend a few moments here in this shape, just telling our body and breath that we are well. So let's begin with 3 sighing breaths. Inhaling slow, deep and wide through the nose. Exhaling through the mouth. And again. Feel that breath rising. I hope you're feeling a stretch into the rib cage. Maybe you're even a little surprised by what you find there today. Isn't this great to have the time and space to be in loving discovery of our body? Again, inhaling and exhaling. Now you might keep that sighing going for minutes at a time. They've shown that even 3 sighing breaths can actually quiet the amygdala, the alarm center of our brain. And that amygdala can get fired up from a single event that's an emergency, a true emergency, but it can also become kind of hyperactive from having a series of kind of stress moments. It might just be being in a hurry, being late, hearing another piece of bad news, stuff that you're hearing on the news, things that are happening in your life, on and on and on. And I think of that as a layering. And the more we have layering of stress, even if it's not an acute event, it has this impact. And if we're not careful, our body can become dysfunctional and kind of compressed, particularly in the breath. So we're going to take a few minutes here at the beginning of our practice to really anchor the body into as much well-being as we can. So if that shape is feeling really, really good still, stay there. If it becomes a little uncomfortable, you're going to roll to one side and then come off the object and just return to laying down but flat with nothing beneath you. Wherever you are, when you are ready, invitation to just roll the head a little side to side, nice and slow. Get to know what's in there. What are you feeling in the upper back, the base of the skull there at the occipital ridge where it connects to the neck? This is a place that often gets tight. It often will relate to people tightening through the jaw, kind of igniting that TMJ area. So just notice how that's feeling. Sometimes I'll add also a little kind of reach up and down of the chin. Again, everything nice and slow. It says to your body, I am well, I'm safe. Again, there's nothing to strive for. This is my yoga. If you're still craving those sighing breaths, continue. When you're ready to shift, we're going to go into our classic yogic breath, just slow, deep, and wide. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose if you can. If you're stuffy, then adjust, stip a little through the mouth or whatever you need to do. And let's really tune into the breath. We're going to cultivate more introversion by turning our gaze up and in. You've got your eyes closed, but you're crossing them as if you'd like to see behind the center of the forehead. And in that moment, we become aware of this incredible world that is us, the body and our energy body and all that's inside, right? Organs and blood and bone and neural pathways. If you can, connect the tip of the tongue right behind the front teeth at the roof of the mouth, and then soften the rest of the tongue. Relax the throat. Allow space between the upper and lower molars at the back of the jaw. So the tip of the tongue is connected. It says, I'm awake, I'm here, I'm deeply attentive. And then there's this wonderful softness in the rest of the muscularity of the mouth, face, neck that says, again, I'm relaxed, I'm safe, nothing to accomplish. And as you're watching the breath, these next few rounds, be like a treasure hunter and see if you can locate or identify the pause between inhale and exhale, between exhale and inhale. Continue. It's like a moment in a piece of music where all the instruments stop. If you can sense your body also is in movement while you're breathing, bigger movement at the beginning of the inhale or exhale, more subtle movement at the very end, the whispers of the breath. Try to be really alert, if you will, or awake to those subtle movements and notice the fine moment that there's a pause, non-movement. We're going to continue this for a few rounds. If you have a difficult time staying mentally present with this, try asking, is there more of the inhale, of the exhale? A way to bear witness to if it's still in active breath or found the pause. Inviting you now to add ujjayi to our process. So continuing with that breath attention, but adding just a little throat contraction. And this allows the breath to move through kind of a valve, a little contracted space. If this is really tension building or just frustrating for you or something, let it go. But as we practice Ujjayi more, it becomes a really awesome tool that we can use to become present to our body in this moment, but also takes us a little more into our core. And in a moment when we're going into compression, expansion, and some core activation, you might really notice that. And again, if you're finding the Ujjayi difficult, you can let it go. At some point, you can also check out the tutorial that I did on Ujjayi and take it step by step. So we're going to come into some activity in that center body. But when we do that, I'd like each of us to practice staying soft in the neck. So doing that head rolling side to side might be your best tool to check in with that. All right. I'm going to be standing so you can watch the activity in my core while I'm still talking to you. But if you don't need to see me, keep your eyes closed and just stay very aware of your own body, perhaps even placing your hands on the abdomen to talk to it. So the next time you're exhaling, it's a firm, slow anchoring, belly towards spine, flattening that spine into the floor. It's as if you're pressing all the air out of an old air mattress. Is there more? Stay soft in the neck. Is there any more? And when there isn't, soften and allow that inhale to breathe you, feeling it return your spinal curve. Is there more? Can you bring a last sip into your chest space? And it should be like it kind of rolls up there of its own accord, not that you're having to suck it in, okay? Again, exhaling compression, inhaling expansion. And this breath practice with core work is one of my favorite ways to start my day. It's also something I'll do perhaps at the end of a day if I've had a lot of stress and I can just feel that I'm not breathing fully or deeply. So notice that when you're doing compression, you're getting out almost 100% of your stale breath, and you're really activating all of your core muscles to help with that. So you can even think about squeezing the ribs in and down. We sometimes put our hands on the ribs to help with that, like when we're doing 3-part breathing. And then on the inhale, that fresh breath is filling you, and it should feel like you don't really have to breathe it in. It's breathing you. So especially if we've been under stress and we've been kind of sucking breath in, this is a beautiful massage for our nervous system. It says you don't have to do this. It's happening for you. Right? Let's do about 3 more cycles. Again, if you can, taking your touch, connecting, waking up all that core body. This is work that we can do that strengthens our body no matter what else is going on. Our wrists are bugging us, our knees, our neck is tight. Unless you have something going on in the abdomen, this is almost always a healthful thing. The next thing we're going to come into is abdominal pumping, and that also generally really good for you unless you've got something going on in your abdomen or also anything to do with eye pressure. Okay, so if you've had eye surgery or anything like that, because you'll feel it actually creates quite a lot of pressure internally. So you could have your knees bent like so, or have them straight. Gather a long inhale. Is there more? Exhaling, empty. Hold the breath out. Don't breathe. With the breath held out, draw your belly in like you're saying, see how skinny I am, and then press it out. In and out. Until you need to breathe. And I often like sighing on the exhale after that. It just feels so, so good. So check it out. We're going to do that again. And you can slow or deepen that pumping to a more rapid movement. So you can kind of adjust it based on the massage that you're wanting to give the center body and what's feeling good.
When you're doing those drawing ins, if you pause and kind of draw in a little more deeply, like you're trying to draw your stomach up in under your ribs, you might actually feel a stretch all the way up into the chest and the lung space. If so, congratulations. It could even make you cough a little bit. That's great. You've gotten a stretch, a place where it's really hard to get one. All right, let's do one more round. And again, the pumping is done without any breath inside because we want to vacuum. We want to be able to really move the organs and flush the organs with fresh blood. It's a really healthful movement. And when that is complete, let's bring both knees into our belly. Nice tight hug. I'm flexing my feet to become more alert of what's happening in the lower body. Remember, if you ever are reaching for the knees and can't get there, you can take a strap or a scarf around to give yourself a connect-in point or any other adaptation that you need to do. All right, we're going to place the feet for bridge, and we're going to come in and out of bridge, anchoring first the upper arms, feet hip width apart, inhaling, slow, deep, and wide, exhaling, pressing up, holding to the end of the exhale, and then inhaling, descending as slowly as you can. And as we do this, we want to practice keeping the knees straight up, not letting them splay out to the side. Exhaling, rise up. Is there more? Inhaling and descend. So I'm going to make a couple of notes while you're doing this. Just please continue. Exhaling up, inhaling down as slowly as you can. One note is that if you are experiencing weight moving to the outside of the foot, or a sense that the inner foot is giving away, you might try placing a block right between the knees, or imagine that there is one there. If when you are coming up, you feel pressure on your cervical spine, this area kind of right at the base of the neck and between the shoulder blades, that's where you need to move your shoulder heads a little underneath you and upper arms so that there's a nice kind of valley here. And that's going to protect that upper spine. Also, the angle of your head. Interestingly, it can be very helpful to let the back of the neck be really long and the chin come towards our chest. It can actually massage the thyroid and help activate it in a healthy way. However, some of us may feel just an icky pull in the neck, and if that's happening, I'd like you to adjust your neck so you've got a nice curve, a spaciousness, and no tension or pull. So again, these are the kinds of ways that you're creating your practice, right? If something feels kind of icky, that's a great indication that you need to adjust something, and I'm here to help you continue to figure out how. All right, the next time you are holding up, invitation to hold, or you've pressed up, hold, and we're going to add our leg extensions. Remember, you can always just start with a hovering of one foot at a time. That's a great place to notice if you're compensating with your neck or how your low back feels. And then if it feels great, go ahead and straighten one leg at a time, extend it. If you're feeling any tension in the low back while you do that, make sure to engage the glutes a little bit more so that you're not in an arch. You're in a nice pelvis neutral, low back neutral. Continuing to breathe. Remember, you can always adjust to breathing through the mouth. I'm a little stuffy today, so you'll see me doing that. Allergies are getting the best of me, make my eyes water too. But our yoga makes everything else work a little bit better. So especially when we're challenged with these kinds of things, we need our practice. We just have to adjust it. And come on down. Good. We're going to bring right ankle, across the left knee. Hug the whole deal towards your chest. So this is our reclined pigeon. You could do more classic pigeon pose if you prefer. Hugging the right knee tightly, really hooking around, and notice right there, I'm hoping you're already getting a stretch. Then we're going to rotate just a little left through the legs and hip. And that brings a stretch more deeply into my right butt area, into the glutes, piriformis, You might even be feeling on the outside of the thigh. Send your breath into it. I like to say the breath is the change agent. It's what helps evolve everything. All right, come on back to center and switch. Left ankle across to right thigh, bringing the whole deal towards the chest. Hug that left knee. Is this side different? You might already be noticing tighter, looser, different kind of tension. Rotating a little to the right. What's there? And you'll notice that in our yoga practice, we try to ask a lot of learner questions. Those are ones that are curious, investigative, versus judger questions like, my body's a wreck. What's wrong with me? And come on back and release both feet. Good. I'm going to have you release both legs so that you're in corpse pose again. And just wiggle and then flex the feet and rotate them in and out. And at some point, flex so firmly through the feet, the heels with the toes turned out, that your feet maybe even come right up off the floor. Nice. All right, we're going to come into a little bit more core work. And I want to invite you, if that compression work felt just like such a good re-education of your abdominal core muscles, go for it. And if you can, add the perineum engagement, so pelvic floor, all right? Otherwise, you could come into yoga sit-ups, which we did in our class last week, and that's that nice compression breath, but then you let it bring your upper back off the floor, holding till the end of that breath. Some of you by now, I know, have an affection for robot, and so that option would be knees straight up from the hip bones, heels straight forward, what we call kind of a double 90 at the hip joint and the knee joints. If you want to add arms, they're straight up. Nice long inhale. Exhale, you root that low back. It's that same compression action. And then you begin to move either just the foot or foot and opposite arm. Try not to let the other limbs shift position. I always feel like this practice is such a good brain activity. It's like learning Latin dancing or something like that. Because as you'll notice, the limbs that aren't supposed to be moving in robot will want to. That's why I call it discombobulated robot. You can feel really uncoordinated when you're first learning this. All right. And when you feel ready, you've gotten enough good work, and your back is kind of going, that's plenty, then letting go. All right. We're going to come into one more stretch here on our back, doing spinal twist. I'll also offer it as a seated version today so that you can check it both out. So the spinal twist on the floor, you'll just come to your left side in embryo pose. You want to have your legs touching the floor, all right? They're not hanging. Then from there, we open that back arm behind us and we let the torso kind of pulse and bob with breath. The inhale lifting it and the exhale sinking it. If you'd prefer to try a seated version, it's important that your spine is upright, that your knees are straight forward of the hips. So I'm tucking my throw under my butt so that I've got that alignment. And I'm going to inhale center, exhale, and rotate to the right. And I'm kind of using my hands to give a little assist, but no big pressure. Inhaling center and exhaling left. And if you're on your back body, after half a dozen breaths or so, you'll move to the other side. Really allowing each inhale its full space. If you're seated with me, go ahead and kind of hold to one side and just continue to breathe in that direction, a couple of breaths. So you're going to not come all the way back to center, but just release a little, just like those of us on the back are doing.
letting the breath take room, and then exhaling. The exhale gives you space to twist. And seated, we'll switch to the other side for our last couple of rounds. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide. Exhaling, rotate. So again, my goal is to give you a framework and you yoga around inside of that. So please don't worry if you're doing this right or if I'm giving options or alternatives that aren't what you're doing. Just ignore me for that moment. All right, we're gonna all join in standing ragdoll. So we wanna have our feet hip width apart, which last week we were talking about this as 2 fist widths for the most part. And you're going to just fold by letting your butt go out behind first. Then your belly kind of drapes onto the thighs or near it, and then you let the head hang. If this is too much, your back is really kind of tight today, then you would add a little support of the elbows on the thighs, or you could even use a chair or other support to slowly allow the body to let go. The knees are bent, ragdoll. And the truth is, even when we say forward fold, like when we're coming in and out of sun salutation and so on, I rarely straighten the legs. And for most people, straightening the legs is going to create an awkward hamstring pull either behind the knee or the butt. And I want you to feel some good stretching into the meat of the hamstring. So we're going to do a little compression exhale, and we're going to add the pressing of the hips towards the ceiling a little bit. And so again, we don't care if the legs get straight. Most of us don't want them straight. So inhale, nice soft breath. Is there more? Exhale, belly towards spine, and just send those hips up a little bit, allowing you to fold more deeply. Good. Inhaling, relax it, bending a little further. Exhaling, hips towards the sky, belly towards spine. Let's do this a few more times. Again, if for any reason your body can't welcome this process, find a way to adjust it if you can. Give it more support, give it more room, make it less intense. Last one here. Then inhaling, just drop your butt to chair and pause. Now your chair might be up here in a bar stool. Or maybe you kind of want to go up and down because it's the first big work your knees have had today and they could use some synovial fluid, right? But either way, I'm asking you to find a place that feels no pressure in the low back. So we're not tweaking that butt way out behind and bothering the spine. We've got it nicely neutral underneath the ribs. On a long inhale, root and rise and hold. So I've got my arms valiantly kind of up, but I'm not trying to bring them in next to the ears. So it's just comfortable. I don't want to feel any pressure on the neck. If you allow your body to, it will pulse with breath. There'll be movement through the arms, through the chest and ribs. Take another deep one. Good. One more long inhale. And then exhaling, hands to prayer at the chest. Now I'm going to have you take your hands flat on your sternum like so. And I want to do it's a very subtle movement, but that is wonderful for helping us really, again, bring breath into the front of the ribs and that kind of xiphoid process and diaphragm. So to get our foundation strong, please have your legs straight, glutes enacted and engaged here. And you're on the inhale, simply going to lift the ribs forward into your touch. And on the exhale, kind of compress them down and back. Sort of like you're just slouching, essentially. Again, inhaling. It should feel like a blossoming. If you feel anything uncomfortable, adjust it until it feels good. Exhaling. kind of compressing down and slouching. Do that a couple more times, your version. Really taking your attention into your chest, into your lung space, your heart space, inviting a feeling of openness. Nice work. Let's bring the hands around behind in Yoga Mudra, intertwining and then pressing the fists towards the floor. If this is not working, if you can't connect your hands or you can't straighten your arms, then grab a hold of a scarf or a strap. And we don't have to do big movements here for it to be useful. I'm going to do just a small movement with my hands already off the hips. I'm going to do just a small rotation to the left. Deep breath in. Let the breath have space. So you might need to let go of your twist a little bit, right? Just like in the other twists. And come back to center. You can let it go a little bit. And again, a little to the right. Big breath. And release. Good. We're going to bring our right arm across in standing thread the needle. So I'm sweeping it right across the body, arms straight. Left hand comes to the elbow, and I'm pressing towards my chest. And as you activate your breath here, really picture it coming into that upper back, into the lung space. Notice also where you're feeling a stretch. And I've taken my feet wide into kind of more of a little athletic stance. And you might rotate down to the left a little bit and feel that you can bring breath into the right ribs there. Head is always wherever the neck experiences ease. Good. And let's release and just kind of let that arm toss up and back. All right, left arm across. As you press the elbow towards you and you keep that left arm totally straight, what kind of stretch do you feel? Where is the breath? Is there more? And rotating a little down to the right. Deep breath into the ribs, and when you're ready, toss it away. All right, we're going to take that loving massage right up into our neck. So go ahead and take like a little collar around the neck, fingertips just touching. And then begin to rotate the head around the kind of rim of the collar. This can also be a nice time to add a little lion stretch, opening that jaw wide. You're really exploring all the band of tension through that whole kind of jaw to base of the skull, upper neck. And you could add a little pressure if you wanted with one hand at a time, a little tractioning. And hopefully you're noticing what's in there, what needs protection and evolution today in our practice. When that's complete, we're going to inhale and sweep up, exhale and fold again. Let that head hang. See if you can let it completely go with gravity. Deep belly breath. Good. We're going to step back into a lunge. I'm going to take my left foot back. You might have to do that in a number of phases. And then I'm going to walk my right foot a little out to the right. So I'm just not on such a tightrope. It should feel comfortable. Now, if this is just plain old hard to be with your hands on the floor, you could use a block. You could also be doing a similar lunge using a chair or an ottoman, something that's not going to move on you. All right. Inviting you to begin little dips. So I'm dipping my left knee, the leg that's back, and straightening. Your front knee wants to be directly above your heel in general. It'll keep your knee happy. Again, you could even be doing very light versions of this standing, where you're just bending and straightening to whatever level you need to get a stretch. Okay, so that'd be another option. And I'm hoping you're feeling a stretch in the quadricep, but also maybe even right up into the hip flexors. Most of us just sit way too much, and you'll feel that here.
All right, I want to give you a choice here. We're going to do the other side. You can either step your left foot forward into your forward fold, ragdoll, or step your right foot back into plank and then bring your left foot forward. So we're all going to arrive in a lunge. Left foot is at the front, right foot at the back, transitioning either through ragdoll or plank. So when you found your position, that front knee over the heel, begin dipping a little through the back leg. Try to have the neck in neutral, again, spine neutral. Breathing, Ujjayi. Don't zone out. Tune into the sensations of the body, again, just like you're being given a great massage. You are. It's just you're the massage therapist. All right, one more. Deep breath into that stretch. And we're going to release into plank. Remember, you can drop knees right away. Otherwise, hold. You could also come down to forearms if your wrists are like, I don't like that. Hold with me for 3 breaths, getting long through the spine. And then release to your belly. Support the head, turn your face to the side, whatever feels good. One complete breath, really big belly breath. All right, resting on the forehead, fingertips tenting behind you in jet airplane. So I've got my arms close enough that my upper arm can kind of squeeze, but I'm not trying to keep my hands on the mat, which would be really awkward. So I just want you to have them out at kind of a 45 degrees. Shoulder heads anchor. Good, anchor your pelvis. So we're thinking about pubic bone and hip bones, our pelvic triangle, connecting to the floor and staying connected as we inhale and extend the spine. Maybe your chest comes off the floor, maybe it doesn't. This pose is one of the most important poses, in my opinion. And I've seen that people who initially can't engage or get off the floor, after even trying once, can return and have those muscles wake up and strengthen so much that then they can. Again, a great testament to the resiliency of our body. This is important because this pose is really waking up all those muscles in the back that help keep us long and tall, open-hearted, open through our breath space. One more, and see if it feels appropriate to release all the limbs from the floor and hold. If you feel a bunch of tension in the back, you might re-anchor the legs. And release again. You could rock the hips side to side. Sometimes people like bending the knees and gently windshield wipering side to side. If you feel anything kind of tweaky pull in the low back, I would leave that out. All right, I'm going to invite us in pre-bow here. If you know you prefer the standing quad stretch, then you're going to come up and do one ankle at a time. I'm going to rest on my forearm so that as I reach back for my first ankle, I'm not having to kind of flail or, make my back tight. Keep the butt anchored, pelvic triangle, and see if you can reach back for the second ankle. Sometimes you could use a strap. It can be challenging to get it around both ankles, but you could also do standing, like I said. Can you bring the knees so that they're straight back from your hip bones? Imagine you're squeezing a block. Good. And you might just be resting with the forehead on the floor, what I call pre-bow. Or you might be a little elevated. And then if you'd like to engage full bow pose, check that pelvic triangle anchoring and press the ankles back into the hands. Notice if the knees want to wing apart and don't allow them to. Just only go as high as you can. Pulsing with breath. Inhaling, extending, exhaling, relaxing. And we're going to press back to child's pose. So keep those glutes engaged, plant the hands, and press back. If your knees don't like this position, then ragdoll would be a great alternate. The arms might be totally relaxed or extended so the palms are anchored, just like we do in puppy or downward dog. Deep abdominal breath, feel it resonate throughout your whole torso. On your next exhale, tuck the tailbone and come on. All right, we're going to come into downward facing dog and play with downward facing dog and bear pose. And in both of these poses, I want to point out that it's totally fine to have your hands wider than shoulder width. What I want us to do is watch for any tension through the trapezius and neck and adjust until we're not feeling that. So we want them very active, fingers spread wide. I've got the power, the activation down through the pad of my thumb and index finger. And I'm going to start with my feet wide too. So inhaling, slow, deep, and wide, maybe coming into a little cat extension. Exhaling, a little cat back, takes you up and back. All right, so playing here, this is actually our bear pose where we've got the knees really bent. I'm going to take the chest towards the knees. And then we'll evolve this into downward facing dog in a little bit. So go ahead and play. You might be pressing one heel towards the floor, then the other. You can give your head a little yes, a little no movement. Everything slow and gentle. Good. Inhaling, come forward a little bit. Knees still bent. Exhaling, press back. Inhaling, come forward a little, so shoulders are kind of coming over wrists or close to it. And press back. Let's do one more. Notice how strong and fluid you are. All right, then we're going to take the feet so that they're only hip width apart, maybe 6 inches. Knees still bent. Now, I want you to think about a long line from the roots of your hands up through the tailbone. So I don't want to be collapsing. I want to actually be supported and long. Then from there, see if you can press your heels a little towards the floor. It doesn't matter if they ever get there. Say hello to the stretch in your back body. Keep breathing into it. Remember, you get to cultivate how much or how little stretch is right for you today. Nice work, folks. We're going to bring the right foot forward. Take as many movements as you need to get there. You can bring it forward with your hand or however. Place your left foot flat if you can, 45-degree angle or so. That's our warrior one. If that doesn't work for you, then stay on the ball of the foot crescent lunge. We're going to come up, and again, if this is challenging or new to you, you might want to add a little support, maybe hand on thigh. As you're ready, come up and just reach for the heavens. Again, not necessarily so close to your ears that it's uncomfortable, just a nice energetic hello. Breathe deep into your heart space. And on our exhale, I'm going to ask you to return to your downward facing dog. So I'm, adding a little bit of flow in here this morning, not much, real slow. So you have a chance to start practicing your way through it. So we're going to bring our left foot forward now. And you want to really round your belly. Again, grab it if you need to. Alternatively, you could come from standing and join us in the pose. So you're on the ball of the back foot, or you're placing it flat. Steer those hip bones forward. That's the key in these lunging poses, warrior one or crescent lunge. Hips straight forward. Deep, deep breath. And I'm hoping you can feel the breath in this case all the way down into that right hip, that right low abdomen. These are areas that get tight from sitting, but also from stress. We tend to kind of curl in a little in stress. One more slow breath.
Is there more? And exhaling, release.
Downward facing dog, or if you prefer, bear. Inhale, exhale, sigh. Ah. Good. We're going to come onto our butt again. So if you want to come down to your knees or however you would like to get there. So I've been talking about our hip flexors being tight, which they are. They also tend to be kind of weak. And so I want to just use our approach to boat pose, to kind of wake them up. But I don't want you to feel like they're clinching up, if that makes sense. So if it just feels like too much, come out. You might only hold for 2 breaths instead of 4 or 5. But I'm going to start off with support with my hands. So I'm bringing my hands in under my knee pits, as we call them. I'm going to check that I'm on my sits bones, the 2 bony guys, that I'm not rounded through the back. And this takes a lot of core strength. So that thing we've been waking up, we're going to want to use it. Nice deep ujjayi. Big inhale, exhale, belly towards spine. See if you can walk those feet back towards you, getting your thighs as close to your belly and chest as you can. Breathe. And then see if you can just flip those feet up off of the floor. Okay, so option to keep holding, just getting all that good core work out, or see if you can release the arms, and that's going to make those hip flexors have to get involved here again. And maybe you can send the shin bones towards parallel. Don't do that if it makes your chest and thighs come away, right? We want to stay really connected. 3 breaths if you got it. Powerful core, belly towards spine, spine reaching towards the sky. Yeah, you'll feel that heat build. And release. Whew. All right, let's windshield wiper them in a little bit. And we're going to do a neat stretch here for this stuff now. And I want you to just know that the key here is that it feels great to you. So, again, if your wrists bother you when you do this, you might instead just go back to your back body and do more bridge pose work. That would be awesome, all right? So I'm going to have my left leg extended, foot flexed, left hand anchors on the floor. I've got my fingertips turned back away from me, and I've got my right foot planted, knee bent. And I'm going to simply be pressing up to the sky and coming down. Okay, I say simply, but right, a lot of joints involved here, a lot of muscles. Explore. If you only get a little bit off the floor, great, that's fine. If you get so you're really off the floor and straight and you want to practice reaching behind you, that can be kind of fun too. I sometimes will do that, but then I'll rotate my head to the side down towards the floor because it'll feel more easeful. Let's check out the other side. So I'm extending my right leg, planting my left foot, right hand behind me, fingers reaching behind, shoulder head anchoring. So remember that kind of shoulder head putting underneath us that we did during bridge pose. I didn't say that very gracefully, but I think you know what I mean. That's what we want. And when you're ready, pressing up and releasing. So notice if this feels different on this side. On most of us, there'll be something, right? We just want to be attentive. And if it's good, if we're activating, strengthening, and stretching something, awesome. And release. Excellent. We're going to come onto forearm plank. So if you can just cross your legs and roll forward under your forearms, great. Otherwise, just come into table pose. Everybody round your belly into your back. And those of you who have your legs crossed like I do, just make sure that as you release one, you really extend it before you try to release the other. All right, folks, forearm plank. Remember, you can do knees down and relax the feet. Otherwise, right here, imagine you're squeezing a block between the thighs, pressing your thigh heads to the sky. If you want an extra little challenge, go ahead and walk those elbows forward.
breathing into the quiver. It's one of the things that we're training ourselves to do in yoga is to breathe and relax while in intensity. And it's great practice for life. Staying present, staying flexible, staying resilient, regaining resiliency when we feel we've lost it. All right, releasing to your belly and just turn your head to the side. And sighing breaths can feel great. Maybe a little hip wiggle. We're going to do a little more back body strengthening. So we're going to be on our front body. If it's comfortable, you'll just rest your forehead on the floor. And hopefully you can still hear me okay. You're going to have your arms ahead of you. But again, if having them straight forward to the shoulders just creates a bunch of tension, take them out a little wide so that you can really stay activated. That's the more important part here. Anchor through that pelvic triangle. You should also be able to feel that you can kind of anchor through the tops of the thighs and the feet so those legs are strong. As you're ready, inhale, extend one arm and opposite leg. Is there more? They're a little off the floor or a lot depending on what's going on. Exhale, slowly descend. Keep extending. Inhaling, other arm and other leg. And we're not using the floor limbs in order to come up off the floor, right? It's just we're reaching for the walls in front and behind, and that lifts those limbs. Exhaling, return. Please continue with your breath, noticing. Is there more? Breath initiating movement. And if you're starting to feel discomfort in the back, that's an indication you might be trying to go up rather than reaching forward and back. All right, let's do one more full round as slowly as we can. Nice work, folks. We're going to press back to child's pose. Again, anchor the pelvis and no wings, no shrugs through the arms as we press back. Ragdoll is a great alternate. You might move a little side to side. Sometimes it feels good to activate a real stretch here by walking the hands to one side and deeply stretching through your body, all the way through the ribs, down into the hip, and switching. We're going to return to our feet. If it's comfortable, just curl those feet under. Come into your ragdoll. Let that head hang completely. Big inhale. Exhale, belly to spine. Fold more deeply. And then inhaling, drop the butt into your chair pose. We were here earlier in our practice. How does it feel now? Do you feel a little more fluid, a little stronger? I definitely do. I was feeling so much pull above the knee, and that's really diminished now. On a long inhale, root and rise. Send that heart forward. And exhaling, prayer hands at the heart. We're going to step sideways on our mat. This is another kind of movement that I tend to do almost every day because I feel like our bodies really need feet out beyond the hips. So take it, in fact, as wide as you can. And then just start going side to side. If you're kind of creaky in this position, start slow, hands just on hips, stay up here. Otherwise, begin, I'm going to turn my toes up just a little bit. I'm going to begin going side to side and down. So I'm I'm going to add my arms. I'm kind of reaching across my body. You might even go to the floor and then reach to the side. And then maybe up high. And you can go slow or fast. And you can either marry the breath with the movement or not. Just asking you to explore all these dimensions around you, making all these shapes that the body is designed to do. Eventually, if you can, make your way down to the floor and just pause to one side and let the head hang. Again, if that's too much, you would just be up on your knee. Slow, deep breaths. And a slow journey to the other side. What's there? What are you finding? And slowly back to center. Good. Walk your feet in. Inhale, root and rise up. Exhaling, prayer hands. Okay, we're going to do a little movement here that is, again, kind of a good brain gym. It's also good cardiovascular, good warming up, and good kind of clearing for our system. So you're going to do as small movements as you need to, or big movements to make this feel great. And you'll just adjust, okay? And you might feel a little discombobulated, kind of like robot when we've done that before. But I'm going to ask you to take your arms up, and you're simply going to bring one knee up towards you and the other arm down towards it. So I've got my left knee up, opposite arm, right arm coming towards it. And you can kind of slap the knee or just cross to the outside or the inside, right? Whatever feels good. Inhaling, mountain. Exhaling, cross other leg and other arm. And I'm speeding it up because, gosh, that just feels good. You might if you're doing a sped up breath like I am, I challenge you to bring it into your belly. So I'm not just, right? It's almost like compression and expansion, but fast. If you've been speeding it up with me, let's do a couple slow. Inhaling, mountain. Exhaling, cross. Inhaling, mountain. Exhaling, cross. And if you feel like it, speed it up again. Big belly. You can hit the knee, like I said, or cross, whatever feels good to you. Last few movements and breaths, and then pause. Mountain, close your eyes. On an exhale, bring your hands to your body, either heart and belly, or one or the other. So say hello to that amazing heart of yours, the heat that your incredible body's created. And this is an exciting moment to remember what we know, which is that just even a few minutes of getting our heart rate up like that, good cardiovascular work, really helps our immune system, our mood. So next time if you find yourself feeling a little blasé, see if either this movement or something like that, jump rope, I think would be marvelous, could just shift you into a different gear. All right, I want to do a little massage or love up of our feet. Now I often do this when we're in class together. I have a little bucket of tennis balls, which I love using. But I didn't want to assume that you have one. So we're just going to do some stretching without, but if you've got one on hand and you want to play with it, go for it. But we're going to simply come onto the toes and the ball, if you will, of one foot, and I'm going to press that shin bone forward. And then this is really challenging for a lot of people. I'm going to curl my toes back and under and press forward. Now, if you're like on a really hard surface and you feel like you just need more padding, you know, double up your mat or do it on top of a throw or something like that. And when you're done with that, go ahead and give it some point and flex and roll through the ankle. Let's do the other side. So I'm on the ball of my foot and I'm pressing forward. And you kind of want to press down too if you're really going to feel this. Is this side different? A lot of what happens in our feet radically impacts our legs, our spine. It's amazing, and we often don't even know what's going on in our feet. Go ahead and curl the other way. Ooh, yeah. So you could repeat that. I also want to show you another stretch that gets into the feet, Achilles tendon, calf area. One of them is just using your block to kind of press into. I've got kind of the ball of the toes or the toe mounds kind of on the block, and it's allowing me to press in this way. And that's going to give me a more gentle stretch through the calf. But a very classic physical therapy stretch that they'll give people, this is easier done on a stairway. Okay, so if this is feeling weird, this is just so you understand what you would do. And you let one foot hang off of the stair, and you get that stretch into the calf, and again, Achilles tendon, all the way down really into the fascia, the plantar fascia, where so many people struggle with plantar fasciitis. So again, this one can be a little awkward. I have small feet, so I'm not having as much of an issue as some people might getting my other foot to support me on the block. Woo! It's great balance practice also. Good. And again, roll it out, love it up. We're going to do a little more self-massage, and for this it's really important that you've got whatever support you need so the butt is high enough that you're comfortable. We're going to be like so in kind of a diamond shape, so it's a little less intense than that seated meditation shape or easy pose as they call it, which is not easy for everybody. So this is easy pose like so. We're going to just bring the feet forward into a diamond shape. And again, you could be in as much support as you need to do this. If for some reason, having one leg in this position is bothersome, just straighten the other leg and just do it on one, or kind of reach over like that. So if you've got a knee or hip that's complaining, or ankle. Otherwise, we're going to be doing it together, and what I'm teaching you here we call a lymph rub. Actually learned this from some martial artists. It's not so much a classic yoga thing, but it's also really supposed to be helpful for releasing the hip girdle, and it is great for circulation. You're going to be starting with your thumbs just inside of the shin bone. So if you kind of feel the hard bony part, there's a valley just inside towards the calf. That's where we're going to be doing our movement. And before we actually do this, I want to ask you to once again get into that sits bones to spine lengthening like we were in boat pose and so on. And so as I apply pressure, I'm going to do it by kind of hinging forward, not curling over my work. All right, take a nice long inhale. And exhale, begin pressing with your thumbs. And I'm just kind of progressively pressing and making my way along that meridian up in towards the knee. If you're pregnant or think you could be, etc., then you want to avoid those first kind of 4 inches, or you can touch that area obviously, but don't dig in. So it's tempting to look down at what we're doing, I realize, but that makes us drop our head. So once you know what you're doing there, try and return your neck to neutral. You can pay attention to what you're doing by kind of watching with your mind's eye and noticing, ooh, there's some intensity. If you've reached the knee, go ahead and start again. And then pause where you find some intensity. Bring your breath to it. When you're ready, moving to the next spot. And this is a great example of edge. Um, maybe you're amazingly unusual and you don't feel anything, or you're not pressing hard enough. That's usually it. But most of us will have some moments of like, wow, that's intense, but where it's kind of good and you're like, oh yeah, let me check that out. That's an edge, and you bring your breath to it. And then at some point, when you're ready to join me, kind of at that upper end, I've got my thumb maybe 2 to 3 inches below the knee crease. I'm going to hold my thumbs there, and I'm going to rotate my hands so that my thumbs are kind of pressing the calf muscle towards the floor. And sometimes I found this will be distinctly more intense on one side. And that's a great clue. There's some torque and other stuff going on. And you can do that same turning rotation pressure if you want to, much of the way down. And then when that's done, go ahead and just kind of give it a swipe. Yeah, clear it out. Good. And then I'm going to invite you to take your feet, and this is once again done with a nice straight back. So if this is difficult, if you're feeling it in your hip flexors, do this seated on a couch or ottoman or something instead. But I'm going to lean back just a little bit like we did during boat pose, and I'm just going to slap with my feet. And I want you to just do that until it doesn't feel good anymore or you've gotten the juice. If you can get it feeling a little tingly, that's great, okay? And isn't it great that you're not in a public classroom, nobody cares how much noise you're making, go for it. I am going to invite us, when we are complete with that, to come down to our back and add the block under the sacral triangle. And I want to remind you where that is. So I've got this bony triangle right here at the top of the crack of the butt. Just above that are my low vertebrae. I do not want the block on that at all. So I'm going to be placing it, it really ends up being, the butt itself ends up being on the block. And that's how it should be. And you can always check once you're there that there's nothing pressing on these low vertebrae. It's right on that bone that you can do this to, and that's how you know you're there. So when you're ready, you'll come down to your back, lift the hips, place the block there, and give your weight to it slowly. It should feel really good. Again, kind of an ah moment. If it's kind of ouchy or pinchy, then don't do it, or use something soft instead. And I find this is super helpful for tractioning that low back a little bit. If you've been kind of tight or sore there, or kind of just clenched up, that can happen a lot if we're doing gardening or firewood, vacuuming, just sitting a lot. So notice how this feels. Receive it. If you are comfortable doing so, you could straighten your legs and kind of drape the body over the block. And this might offer you a nice, again, deep stretch through the psoas and the hip flexors here. See what you think. Stay here as long as it's feeling great. When you do come off, you always want to bend the knees first. And if you're like, gosh, this feels so good, I really want to stay here for a long time. I've had people in class want to spend their whole Shavasana there. And I would not do that unless you want to swap it out for a soft object, like a folded up throw like I've got. It just ends up being too irritating. Yeah, I hope though that it has felt good, and I hope that the next time you feel just sort of tight through that part of your body, that you'll remember this shape and think about giving yourself that love up right that moment and not making the body wait. When you do feel complete, please find your closing shape. Maybe it is corpse pose, Shavasana. Maybe you'd like to do a few minutes of seated meditation. I'm going to be closing our practice, but you're welcome to continue. And maybe you'd like to return to breath attention. This would be a lovely time to do some breath locks, for example, if you've noticed that those are challenging but good for you, that holding out and holding in. So at the end of practice, we have cultivated a much more integrated state, body, mind, spirit. So inviting you to, as often as possible, take advantage of that, whether it's moving into deep breath work, letting yourself go into a yogic sleep, getting up and journaling. And particularly today, we started off talking about the value of gratitude along with breath to help shift us back towards a more resilient state if we've been experiencing layers of stress. So you might right now just place your hands on heart, belly, and think of one thing that you're most grateful for at this time. And ask you to really stay with the feeling for at least 1 full minute. I'll be here with you. Try to notice where you're feeling the gratitude. Does it show up in your chest, in your abdomen? Does it feel like a soft, warm blanket for your whole body and being? Does it make you feel like sighing, laughing, or crying? It's so powerful to notice how our thoughts have an immediate and profound effect on our body. So as you move throughout your day, I hope you'll find more thoughts that bring more goodness and resiliency to this amazing body of yours. Thank you for coming to the mat. I'll see you soon. Om Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Namaste.